Hello and welcome to the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons & Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, rules, creatures, and features for D&D. And this is a show where we challenge each other and ourselves to make new homebrew every single week based on community prompts that we get from our listeners, from our community here. They ask us to make something around a theme or an idea, and we do our best. This week, we made much more than just one piece of homebrew, though. This week, we made a lot. Michael, you want to remind the folks what we...
total items.
Yeah.
Yes. The prompt that was laid upon our shoulders this week was a full run of Druid spells. That is level 1 all the way through level 9. 9 spells apiece, 18 spells total. This was large. This was a big week.
This was beefy.
Lots of stuff to cover.
And very troublesome for me. I had a hard time. Because this is the first time that we've made spells. We have made a lot of monsters. We've made a lot of subclasses. We've made a lot of items. But this is the first run at spells that we've had. So we haven't really talked about our process regarding spells, how to balance those things, how to figure out what levels things belong at. And that was the trickiest part for me, was like when I was getting into the utility stuff, like how do you decide if something is 5th or 6th or 4th level when you're talking just straight utility and not doing the damage math?
Yeah, levels 4 through 6, 4 through 7, a lot of those on my list could have gone a bunch of different directions level-wise. Level 9, there aren't many of those spells, and a lot of them are already pretty world-breaking. Wish, we were talking about earlier, is pretty all-encompassing.
Yeah.
So there may not be really much of a need for more ninth level spells. But alas, we are here and we have created 2 of them and 16 other spells as well.
I finished mine today because I was so deeply stuck. Mostly my thing was that I struggled to come up with a lot of the core ideas. You know, what I wanted to do from the outset was try and find a theme that I could build around, you know, to try and find some sort of similarity between all of the spells that I created. You know, I wanted them all to have one sort of theme or another, based on maybe if I could have found a gap in, spells where I'm like, oh, I wish there were more spells that did X. Then I could do a full run of spells that like worked around that theme. And I could not land it for the longest time. And so I just made 9 kind of unrelated spells, which is also fine. But I think I got stuck in that mindset, and I wouldn't let myself sort of come up with ideas.
It's hard, man. Yeah.
Hey, sometimes pressure is the thing, though, that like gets me to actually come up with a half of an idea, because I did come up with one just earlier today, and I was like, I'm struggling in these high-level spells because it's like, what do you do? How do you do this? And an idea just sort of like popped into my brain because I was like, I need to come up with something that like changes the world. Yeah. And something popped in my brain, and I was like, you know what? Let's just run with it. Let's just see if that is a fun thing to do.
Yeah, high-level spells are tough because 9th level spells deal with permanence, right? There are plenty of spells in the game that can change the landscape of the world. But 9th level spells are the most permanent. They're the ones that do the most permanent, lasting damage or change or rerouting. And that is difficult to come up with something that's not already in existence, right? It's hard to find a new concept that can be bent permanently. But also, it's so difficult to balance, because the discrepancy in power level of 9th level spells alone, there are so few of them, but like when you have something like Wish and something like Foresight on the same level, like Wish is so much more powerful than Foresight, but they're both level 9 spells. So it's like the sizing, right? You have small, medium, large, huge, and then gargantuan is anything that's bigger than 25 feet around, right? That's kind of how 9th level spells are, where it's just there's a floor, and then infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite possibilities.
Yeah, I mean,
and
it's
that's
crazy.
Really,
it's
a lot of ground to cover.
It's totally bonkers because you're absolutely right that, like, really, if you get to 9th level spells, like, regardless of what spell you cast at 9th level, you could cast a 1st level spell at 9th level. It's overpowered. It's everything you do at that level is overpowered. So, you know, that's just the nature of the beast a little bit. But it is sort of strange to be like, and here's everything else that's too strong to be at 8, but it's a total mess. And so, you know, it's just tricky about it. So I decided to just, like, almost embrace that and just be like, is this thing powerful enough? I don't know. It feels more powerful than 8th, though, and so I guess it has to be. It has to be 9th, so it is.
That's exactly where I landed too. For the majority of my week, the spell that ended up being my 8th level spell was my 9th level spell. I had it done, and I was like, that's the one that I was worried about. This is done early. This is great. And then just at the 11th hour, late in the game, I changed it to 8th level and came up with something else.
I think the other thing, though, is that, like, the top level is really hard to figure out, right? Because the top level is just like, it's so, you know, it's so reality bending. But the bottom level is also really hard because there are so many spells, especially at 1st level, that exist. And you can cover almost anything of, like, minimum power that anybody would want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like almost the whole range is more or less covered. So finding something unique that hasn't been done at 1st level, even at 2nd level, is like, how do you do that?
I did have kind of a general theme-ish for all the spells that I did. Nothing super specific, but that ended up helping me the most with the 1st level spell, because if you leave it open to any possibility, it's like there are millions of options you could go with. How do you choose the one 1st level spell? Because they're all generally easier to craft, right? Once you find your idea, it's easier to make when you land on something, but landing on it in the first place was quite difficult.
And then scrolling through the whole list to be like, is something else? Is there just a spell that I'm forgetting about that already does this? Oh man. Michael, I have a question. It's only slightly related. Do you have a favorite, like, official spell?
Dream
Dream is that's such an interesting spell to be a favorite.
I love it. It rarely comes up. It's very rarely used. I think pound for pound, it may be the most powerful spell in the game.
Wow.
Barring like Wish, right? The amount of mental damage you can do to another creature with the Dream spell is wild, with no saving throws. You just enter their dreams, and you're just like, I'm going to cause you a bunch of psychic damage and leave you with lasting memories forever that didn't happen. You're gonna be messed up forever. This is the Middle Ages. There's no psychotherapy. You can't go and talk to somebody about this. You just have this memory now.
Depending on your setting, I guess.
You have this. Like, this is the thing that I'm inflicting on you for free with no ramifications, and I think that's great. What a beautiful spell.
It's very good. Very nice.
Do you have a favorite spell?
I have a few. And mostly when I say favorite in this context of my favorites, to me, they're spells that, like, most people, I think, don't necessarily always load them or know how incredibly beneficial they are. I'm going to say Bless.
Oh.
Bless is, pound for pound, one of the best spells in the game in terms of bonus. Great stuff. I love it. I always load it. And one that I almost always go to, but I think people read it and they think it's more limited than it is Command. Because there are listed options for, like, what you could do. But it specifically says you just utter a single word. That word can be any command. It can be stop, grovel, whatever. But it can be anything that you can think of. It can be anything useful to you. And it takes that creature's next action. So it's as good as skipping their turn, but also with the effect of then they're going to take that turn doing whatever it is. If that's, stopping, if that's running, if that's whatever it is, it's great. It's endlessly useful. You can use it in almost any situation as long as you're dealing with things that can speak language or understand language. But obviously that's a whole other situation. But I just think it's not one that people tend to gravitate towards. But I had a paladin, and that was his go-to move because I could not roll for crap. But if I could force a saving throw, I'll do it every time.
That's a really good spell. It's one that I always forget about until my players use it. I have a paladin in my home game, just a great player. Like everything you'd want in a player, like really gives in to role play and really thinks tactically in combat in really any situation. And he uses command often. I forget about it until the next time he uses it, and I'm like, gosh, why don't I use this more against you guys? Like, it's so good. It's just, really great, really versatile, very cool.
But yeah, those are some of my favorites for sure, especially at the lower and mid tier levels. I mostly gravitate towards the ones that mess with action economy or mess with like battlefield control stuff. Much more than I do the straight damage spells, which I also think are good. I
don't usually gravitate towards damage dealing spells either. Like I'll grab a couple of them because you need them.
Yeah,
but
you need them.
I have a soft spot for the really strange stuff. I like the off the wall stuff.
I know that.
Speaking of spells, should we get into our task at hand?
Yes.
All right, if you would, Dan, please open your document. I didn't even bother with an introduction or anything. I just titled this Druidic Magic. This is 9 spells for the Druid. Simple formatting this week. If you'd like to follow along before we start getting into these, you can follow us on Patreon. These are all up there now for free, and you can get your eyes on these actual documents and read along with us here as we start going through these. Let's start at level 1. Very basic. I was combing through the Druid spells, Druid exclusive spells, and I couldn't find anything like this. Obviously, there are enchantment spells here and there, but there's nothing that really lets you create a plant. I call this command plants. It's a level 1 conjuration.
Lovely.
1 action, for a range of 60 feet, and it lasts for 1 hour. You imbue a non-magical plant within range that is medium-sized or smaller with primal energy. That plant uproots itself and can move around above the ground using its roots like legs. It's friendly to you, has a movement speed of 20 feet, and 3d6 hit points. It can't speak, but it understands common, and can communicate simple ideas to you telepathically within 100 feet. Its several root-like limbs can hold up to 30 pounds. In combat, the plant can't attack and will only use its actions to dash, disengage, or hide based on commands from you. The plant remains sentient for the duration unless it drops to 0 hit points or you end the spell as an action. When the spell ends, the plant automatically roots itself back into the ground in its current space. You can upcast this at higher levels for an increase in hit point total of the plant by 1d6 for each slot above first.
Just a nice little plant guy. Little baby Groot to come and help you out.
It's just a fun little guy. That's all he does. I did include the carrying capacity if you just want a plant guy to carry stuff for you.
Oh, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a totally valid thing. So that's one of the basic ones. I was neither here nor there about that one. I like the versatility of it. I like the utility of it. This is one of the ones that I really liked, that I don't know if it works as a second level spell or not. I'm not sure. This is called Primal Harvest. It's a second level evocation. The casting time is 1 minute with a range of touch for 1 hour duration. You choose a druid spell of first or second level with a range other than touch or self and a casting time of 1 action. You can cast that spell as a part of the casting of Primal Harvest and expend spell slots for both. The chosen spell is buried in the ground at your location, and it uproots and takes effect after after the duration expires, or you cause it to as a bonus action. If the chosen spell requires a single target, the creature closest to the point of burial is automatically selected. If it involves an area of effect, it is centered on the point of burial, and any chosen direction is focused automatically towards the nearest creature. This is one of the meta magics that I added to my Photosynthetic Soul Sorcerer that I did not.
Indeed.
I didn't like it as a meta magic. I couldn't figure out a way to balance it correctly. I think it just fits better as a spell, so I put it here. I think it probably could be 3rd level too, depending on the spell that you choose. But second, it seems okay. I'd have to test it.
Yeah. I think depending on a number of balance things, there's strong cost benefit analysis to be done here about you're giving up 2 spell slots, but you're only using 1 action to do a casting of basically 2 spells. It's kind of delayed blast something or other, but it's also not letting you cast higher level spells using this. Right. It's just the small ones. So I don't know. Full disclosure, I did make something really similar to this, but it is quite different in a lot of ways, and you will see how that is. But I think this was, a strong idea, and I do like it better as a spell than as a meta magic. I think you were right to sort of port it in that way, for sure.
Moving on to 3rd level, we have Eyes of the Wood. This is a 3rd level Abjuration spell. That's 1 bonus action to cast. This is a range of self out to a 15-foot radius. It is a concentration spell for 1 hour. For the duration, you emanate an aura of calming natural energy. Any creature of your choice within 15 feet of you has advantage on all nature, perception, and survival checks. Creatures within the aura cannot be surprised or poisoned, and any effects of a previously poisoned creature within it are stalled until they leave the aura. At higher levels, you can upcast this for an increase in duration by 1 hour for each slot above 3rd level.
I like it.
Silence or Pass Without Trace for survival instead.
I feel like you could just swap the level on these last 2 and just do 2nd level for this one, 3rd level for the other one. I think that would be just about perfect.
That was an option that I thought
because this feels really good utility. Does feel on a level, like you said, with Pass Without Trace in a lot of ways. So it feels like it kind of matches. Plus, it's only pausing the poison condition. It's not undoing it entirely, so it doesn't have that same level of a restoration or anything like that. So I like it. It's a good vibe though.
Thank you, man. Moving on up the list, we have Chrysalis, a 4th level transmutation spell.
I glanced at this one and it looks very cool.
This is one of the ones that I was really excited about. I think this was the 2nd one I made out of the entire list because I just had
this is good.
The idea there, and this is the one that I edited the most out of the entire list. This is a single action casting time, a range of self. And its duration is up to 5 rounds and then 10 minutes, which will make sense in just a second. You become encased in a protective resin-like shell. The shell itself has an AC of 13 and 20 hit points. When encased, you are blinded, restrained, and incapacitated, and remain that way until 4 subsequent rounds have passed. You break out as a bonus action, or the shell is reduced to 0 hit points. Now, the effect upon exiting this shell depends on how long you have been inside of it. Each round, you maintain concentration on the spell. You gain an additional cumulative benefit upon exiting the shell. The gained benefit lasts for 10 minutes. On the first round, you form the Chrysalis. Second round, if you are ousted from the shell after 2 rounds, you sprout wings and gain a flying speed equal to your movement speed. If you're ousted at the 3rd round, you are resistant to fall damage. In the 4th round, your flight speed is doubled. And on the 5th round, you are immune to any effect that would disrupt your flight or otherwise cause you to fall other than dropping to 0 hit points. So you cannot be taken out of the sky and you have a 50 to 60 foot fly speed if you remain inside of this shell for 5 rounds. Obviously, that is a massive amount of time if you are in combat. If you have the 30 seconds to spare, this is a heightened fly spell, right? It can also be upcast for a greater hit point total by 5 for each level above 4th.
Yeah. No, you're good. That's great. That's very cool though. I like the round markers and it doesn't fully punish you for like not getting all the way there.
Yeah.
Like
it's incremental.
If you don't get all the way to the end of the 5 rounds,
you still get
you're
something.
screwed and you wasted the spell. You still get like these little bits, and like they can be really useful. Even if you just get 2 rounds in, stick in there for the first 2 rounds of combat, and then boom, you're flying.
Right. At level 5, I have Nourishing Seeds. This is 1 action, a range and area of 60 feet and 20-foot radius, respectively, and a 1-minute duration. You expel seeds onto the ground in a 20-foot radius centered on a point within range. The seeds immediately grow into small plants of your choice and can provide healing to you and other creatures, containing a pool of temporary hit points equal to 10d8 plus your spellcasting modifier. Until the spell ends, whenever a creature is standing within the seeded area, they can use a reaction to take up to 10 temporary hit points from the pool as their own. The spell ends when the duration elapses, the temporary hit point pool reaches 0, or you end it as a free action. When you cast the spell using a spell slot of 6th or higher, the temporary hit point pool increases by 1d8 for each spell slot above 5th. So this is a range of free temp HP that you and your party can stand inside of and grab as a reaction every round if you need it.
Nice.
Obviously, a limited number of temp HP, but if you can give it to the people that need it the most, buff your casters and things like that, it can be very useful, I think.
I do have a question. It does just say a creature, so feasibly, somebody you don't know could jump on these temp 100%. HP. Cool.
It does not distinguish between friend or foe. I thought that would be a little bit too powerful.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
At 6th level, I have Sequoia. This is a conjuration spell, casting time of 1 minute, a range of 60 feet, and a duration of 24 hours, a full day. A sturdy tree sprouts from the ground in an unoccupied space within range and grows to a height of 60 feet and a diameter of 15 feet. For you and up to 5 other willing creatures of your choice, the tree is hollow. You can pass in and out of the tree at will. To all other creatures, the tree appears solid and natural. No sound can pass out of the tree from inside, but a creature inside the tree can hear externally out to 10 feet. The interior of the tree can be laid out in any way you'd like, making use of the height of the tree however you'd like. This may include, but is not limited to, spiraling stairs, a collection of platforms, or an observation deck. When you cast the spell at a higher level, the diameter of the tree increases by 5 feet, and 1 additional creature can be chosen for each slot level above 6th.
That's cool. I love a little temporary base.
Yeah. It's 1 day of a base of operations.
Yeah.
If you have a minute and you're getting chased, feel like you can spare the time in the spell slot, you're no longer detectable.
There are a good handful of spells that have like a similar energy to that, create a space where like you can duck into either, in the world or, an extra planar space. I really like this one. It has good druid flavor though. It feels like it matches with ideally exploring in a forest, in a natural region, in a forest,
My original idea for this was not a tree, actually. It was just like a post up for ranged fighters, some type of post that you just shoot somebody way up into the sky, and they have a better vantage point just to kind of get a lay of the land or attack from a distance or something like that. And I thought
that's fun too.
I thought that was close to what I wanted, but this, you can do that and still have the option of just straight protection or a place to rest up. You can do a full rest inside of the trees, a long rest. So I think this is quite versatile.
Yeah, slick.
All right, down the line we have Plant Proxy, a 7th level enchantment. This takes 1 action. There's a range of 60 feet, and the duration is instantaneous. You select 1 plant that you can see within range as your proxy. It springs to life. It shares your AC and your hit point total, but cannot regain hit points. Once your proxy is active, you can use a bonus action to engage it, causing it to perfectly mimic every move your body makes. At any time while engaged, you can use a bonus action to disengage the proxy and cause it to remain completely still. While disengaged, the proxy will defend itself from hostile creatures, but otherwise take no actions. If the proxy strikes another creature while engaged, it does not need to roll to attack. instead meeting or missing a target's armor class in congruence with your attack roll. Whenever an attack hits, the proxy deals bludgeoning damage equal to 1d6 plus your spellcasting modifier. So this is just, for lack of terminology that already exists in the game, this is just a mimic, right? This is just a plant that mimics your every move, and you can turn that feature on and off as you wish until it is reduced to 0 hit points. I figure this would be great for doors that have 2 locks, but you're by yourself. You need 2 people to open things. You need another creature to help you climb up a steep ledge or something.
This is one of the spells that like you just can't predict all the ways that a clever party will utilize it. And so for that reason, it's probably good to put it a little higher than you think, because someone's going to find a way to use this for something that you would never have thought.
I agree. That's what I was thinking too. There's going to be somebody that will find the holes here and exploit it for all that it's worth.
Absolutely.
And for that, they need to spend a 7th level spell slot. This is the one that I need to test the most, I think, to make sure that it's in the right spot. But
that's fun though.
Moving on down the line, we have One with the Land at 8th level. This is a divination spell. Casting time is 1 minute. The duration is up to 6 hours, and the range is 1 mile. Melding yourself into a nearby tree, boulder, hill, or other natural formation, you become indistinguishable from nature. For the next 1d6 hours, you are restrained, but you gain the following benefits. You're resistant to all damage and cannot be detected through magical or non-magical means. You know the location, creature type, and alignment of every creature within range. You can see and hear through the senses of any beast, fey, or elemental within range. You can only perceive through one creature's senses at a time, and creatures with an intelligence of 6 or below do not know that you're doing it. You can control weather patterns such as precipitation, storm systems, and winds within range, and you can communicate telepathically with any creature within range that understands a language. You can end the effects of this spell at any time, taking 1 minute to form back into your own body.
That's cool. It's definitely like a higher level sort of commune with nature, with a lot of additional things going on. The thing for me as a DM that just like terrifies me is the location, creature type, and alignment of every creature within range. It's just like, oh my goodness. I'm going to have to get out a piece of paper. There are 27 squirrels. There.
Could you tell me everything about this half-orc that's 500 feet down this ravine?
Like, literally every creature. Like, my goodness, how I'm supposed to... Okay, yeah.
It's immense.
But that's an 8th level spell for you, folks. Yeah. That's what that stuff does to a DM.
For a while, this was my 9th level spell. I had the range at 5 miles.
Yeah.
And I had immunity to all damage at 9th level. But I came up with a different idea for 9th level, and I just basically reduced everything. Just some things to take it out of that total game-breaking space. This doesn't really do any damage. The only thing that you're really doing to other creatures is if they have intelligence high enough, they know that you're kind of looking through their senses, but you're not physically doing anything to them. So this is purely investigative. It's incredibly effective in investigation.
Yeah,
but it's not like it's not crazy. It's just an immense amount of power. So I think this fits well at 8th level.
Yeah, I mean, there's a degree of like if you know roughly where your target is and you are within 1 mile, it's scrying without the save,
right?
And plus a bunch of other stuff. So that all feels very appropriate for the level. Feels like the kind of thing that you wouldn't use very often, but like a good druid player would be able to make this work exactly when they need it.
You ask the right questions, and this is worth your while. And it also, I didn't have a roll for the amount of hours at 9th level. I think 1 to 6 hours as a randomized roll is fair here.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, at the top tier here, Transdifferentiation. This is a 9th level transmutation spell. Costs 1 action to cast. It's the range of self. It is instantaneous, and the components include 1 finger or toe severed from your body and placed in a silver bowl worth at least 1,000 gold, all of which the spell consumes.
Wow.
You grant yourself the ability to temporarily reverse your life cycle, avoiding danger caused by aging or physical harm. As an action, you revert yourself back to level 1. With all hit points restored, all conditions that you were under removed, and any severed or lost body parts regrown. Your base class must be the same, but every 10 minutes following the casting of this spell, you gain 1 player level, and the player options available at which do not need to be the same as they were before. This continues until you reach the level you were previously at. When you cast Transdifferentiation, for the next 24 hours, your hit point total increases by 3d10, and you are immune to 1 damage type and 1 condition from the following lists: acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder, and blinded, deafened, incapacitated, poisoned, or restrained. So this is a character reset.
Wow. I love it. Holy cow.
There are several animals in our real-world ecosystem that have this ability. It's called Transdifferentiation, and essentially, when they get too old, there's an ability they have to revert to like their pupil stage, right? They revert back to a younger version of themselves and just kind of live their life. There's a jellyfish called the immortal jellyfish that has this and does it regularly, just like lives forever because it can just make its cells young again. So this felt very druidic. It felt very cool. And there's nothing else that really does this in the game that mechanically quantifies re-rolling a character or, changing things. It's all kind of like at DM discretion. So this puts more of that discretion back in the hands of the player.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
Thank you.
So neat. That's really cool. And now you're also making me think like taking that from like weird abilities that like animals and things have. I'm like, man, that's the thing I should have done. I should have figured out how to like mechanically turn weird animal abilities into spells.
Next time.
Because like animals do all kinds of weird stuff.
So weird. There are so many weird things that I found, and this is the one that hit the nail on the head for a 9th level spell.
Man, oh man. Crazy stuff.
But that's it.
Crazy stuff.
Those are my spells. Those are my druidic spells.
They all seem very fun. Some of them I think probably need more testing than others. Some of them 100%. Are like that could get slotted in right away. But yeah, I like it. I like them all.
Thank you, man.
They're all very fun. Very cool.
I would love to play test these. If anybody out there wants to play a druid and play some of these spells, and then come back to me and let me know how it goes, I would be very grateful. Dan?
Yes.
I would love to see some of your druid spells.
Okay, we are going to get into my druid spells here. So if you'll open up your document there, you will see my big ones, and one of these definitely has the wrong level marker immediately, I noticed. That's fine, I'll figure it out. The first one up here is the 1st level evocation spell, Poison Burst. Casting time of 1 action, range of self, and duration is just instantaneous. This is a quick, short, little 1st level spell. A cloud of noxious spores explodes from you in a 10-foot radius sphere. Creatures in the area must make a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned for 1 minute as it chokes on the spores. While poisoned in this way, a creature takes 1d6 poison damage at the start of each of its turns and cannot speak. Ooh. A creature can repeat the save at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success.
I like that.
And you can increase the spell slot to extend the radius of the cloud by 5 feet and extend the damage by an extra 1d6 for each slot level above 1st. I think I actually meant to do 2d6 for the base poison damage.
That would make more sense.
So I'll change that. But really the biggest thing is poisoned condition, a little bit of damage, and notably cannot speak. That's the real kicker here.
Man, take any of the verbal components of spells away.
So it's a more targeted silence. It doesn't require concentration like silence does, but it is the kind of thing that something that's resistant to poison would be able to get over.
Yeah.
Then we move down to the 2nd level spell. This is one that I actually really like and one of the first ones that I came up with. Fey Presence. This is directly inspired by the various Eladrin.
Love that.
So this has a casting time of 1 action, a range of self. It's a transmutation spell with a concentration of up to 10 minutes. So you can call on the forces of Eladrin and season-bound Fey creatures to change your visage. For the duration, you can force a creature that starts its turn within 10 feet of you or moves within 10 feet of you for the first time on its turn to make a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by you for the duration. Additionally, when you cast this spell, choose a season. Before the spell ends, you can use an action to cast the spell associated with the chosen season without expending a spell slot or material components, targeting all creatures that are charmed by you. This spell then ends.
Ooh.
So
I like that a lot.
the seasonal related spells are Tasha's Hideous Laughter for spring, Enthrall for summer, Suggestion for autumn, and Phantasmal Force for winter. Normally, each of these can target one creature at their base level. With this, you can target all of the creatures charmed by you. So the idea would be, get this up, try and charm at least a few creatures, and then dismiss it to cast a spell at a larger group of people for a little bit cheaper.
This is really cool. It takes elements from Delayed Blast, like we talked about earlier. Elements of like a Chardalon Stride, where your goal is to just run past as many people as possible. This is fantastic. I really like this a lot.
Then we have at the 3rd level transmutation, Call of the Wild, with casting time of 1 bonus action and a range of self, concentration up to 1 minute. You call on the natural magic to empower your animal forms. The first time you use your wild shape feature while concentrating on the spell, you can distribute a cumulative +3 bonus to your beast form's armor class or attack rolls. So you can decide if you want to do +2 to attack and +1 to AC, or all +3 to AC. This bonus lasts until you lose concentration or until you end your wild shape.
That's great.
And when casting this spell at a 5th level or higher, you gain a +1 to the cumulative bonus for every 2 slot levels above 3rd. So it goes up every 2 instead of every 1. But just a little buff to your wild shape stuff. It could probably be buffed a little bit to be a 3rd level spell, but I couldn't figure out how. So I'm going to leave it like this for now.
I really like this.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I feel like it could use a little bit of a boost. Just 'cause, I mean, depending on what you wild shape into, a +3 spread between AC and attack rolls might feel a little bit thin before you upcast.
Yeah,
but you're right. Where where does it go? Do
you just,
and
that's the other thing
it
is
to 2nd level and call it a day.
So basically, the core idea is I want this to be a buff for your wild shapes. However, I also understand that like wild shape is not always a damage output choice. It's not necessarily like sometimes it's a survivability choice, but a lot of times it's also a utility choice. And so I'm going back over it and still trying to think of like, how do I reward and buff all of that? And I think maybe it is going to be something closer to me upping that bonus and allowing more options for you to put that bonus into. So you can do attack rolls if you want, or you can do armor class, or you can maybe do certain ability checks. I don't know exactly how to make it not overly complicated though. So for now, this is what it is, but just know that the goal here is to give druids an ability to cast a spell, keep concentration on it, and then jump into a wild shape that's better than a normal druid's wild shape. Okay, then we have Corrosive Shroud, which is somewhat adapted from a spell that I already made a long time ago, and I can't decide which version I like better, but I do like this version. It is a 4th level abjuration spell, casting time of 1 action, range of self, and concentration up to 1 minute. A lot of concentration spells on this list. You shield yourself with a barrier against weapons not of the natural world. So this is playing off of the idea of druids being sort of not a fan of metal weapons, metal armor, and things like that. Any non-magical weapon made of metal that hits you corrodes. After dealing damage, the weapon takes a permanent and cumulative -1 penalty to damage rolls. If its penalty drops to -5, the weapon is destroyed. Non-magical ammunition made of metal that hits you is also destroyed after dealing damage. In addition, for the duration, you can use an action to touch a piece of metal and cause it to corrode, applying the same -1 penalty to non-magical metal weapons, a -1 penalty to the AC bonus granted by non-magical metal shields and armor, or destroying 1 square foot of any other non-magical metal object. If the target object is being worn or carried, you must make a melee spell attack against the wielder's armor class.
Yeah, there it is.
You just, this is a spell that just turns you into a rust monster, basically.
I like this a lot. As you were reading it, I was thinking that it was a bit strong for 4th level, and then requiring the attack is just the balance it needs.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones that I think I would like to see tested to make sure.
Yeah,
but it feels good. This is a really cool thing that doesn't exist in the game, this is great.
Yeah, I think the attack roll is absolutely necessary because it does mean your druids got to get in there. Mm-hmm. They have to, you know, be in the thick of it. And again, fighting the town guard, sure, super useful. Fighting an aberration? No.
Right.
No, this is not going to help. It's got utility for sure, but not so broadly useful that it needs to be any higher than 4th, I think.
It's great. Love it.
Then we have at 5th level, Withering Vine, a 5th level conjuration spell with 1 action, range of 30 feet, and concentration, again, up to 1 minute. You extend your arm and conjure a parasitic vine that lashes out at one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 5d6 necrotic damage, and you regain HP equal to half the damage dealt. Additionally, the vine forms a tether between you and the target, preventing it from moving more than 60 feet away from you. And the target can use its action to attempt an athletics or acrobatics check against your spell save DC to escape. While the tether is active, you can use a bonus action on your turn to apply the damage again without expending a spell slot. It's a nice little ranged vampiric touch that you can hang on to for a while and hopefully keep someone from running away.
This is like better innervation.
Yeah.
It's so much more useful. I feel like this borders on a 6th level. I think...
It might be.
The ability to activate the damage again as a bonus action is huge.
Yeah.
But I
maybe it should
really
be
like
4d6.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would...
I think reducing the damage would balance it to 5th.
Yeah, this is fantastic. The tether is really cool. There are a few things that have similar effects in the game, but not nearly enough. And this fulfills that. It does a lot of things in one package.
It's rocking some carnivorous plants vibes. Then we have Cultivate, a 6th level abjuration with a casting time of 10 minutes, a range of self, but it's an area of 30 feet, and a duration of 24 hours. So you cast this spell to seed greater reward in the future. So after casting this spell, the next short rest you and any companions within 30 feet of you when you cast this spell take before the spell ends, gain the following benefits in addition to all of your short rest benefits. Affected creatures regain the maximum amount of HP for all hit dice spent. Affected creatures gain a +2 bonus to all saving throws for 8 hours. Affected creatures can regain expended spell slots to a total slot level up to your wisdom modifier, and affected creatures are healed of the blinded, deafened, poisoned conditions and can remove 1 level of exhaustion.
Yeah.
So this is basically just a spell that beefs up your next short rest. If you know you're going to have a heavy adventuring day that's going to be like, we're going to need to rest a few times, cast this spell in the morning, and you will be able to harvest the rewards later.
Shoot, cast this spell at night, and then take your long rest. Get all of your spell slots back.
I maybe should
stipulate that it doesn't overlap with long rest.
Yeah, or something. Maybe reduce the duration to 12 hours instead.
I don't know. I think it fits. You can. It only works with 1 short rest.
You're right.
So,
sure.
So it, you're not gonna change that regardless. It just gives you a little bit more rope.
True.
I like this a lot. This feels perfect at 6th level. It just feels balanced. The bonuses are not outlandish, but they're also things that are really useful. Especially the regained spell slots. That's great.
Yeah,
I like this a lot.
I think the big ones for me are the spell slot and the healing of certain conditions that might last until your long rest.
Exhaustion.
You can pull those back to a short rest. It's the kind of spell that requires that you're kind of knowing what you're planning for the day, for the adventuring day. So like it's good for exploration campaigns. It's good for like survivalist campaigns for sure. At 7th level, here's my version of your 2nd level spell, Spell Seed. Casting time of 1 minute, range of self, components, you gotta have a little seed, and a duration of 24 hours. So you conjure a tiny seed in your hand with incredible arcane potential. You can cast any druid spell with a range other than self and a casting time of less than 1 minute into the seed to be triggered later. Any time before the spell ends, you can trigger the spell within the seed, no action required by you. The spell is cast from the location of the seed, and you do not need to see the seed or any targets of the spell as long as they are not behind total cover from the seed's position. At the end of the triggered spell's duration, the seed disappears and the spell ends.
Yep.
got your little contingency seed, you just plant it somewhere in the ground, you walk away, and anytime you're just like, send it off.
Nice. Yeah,
easy.
This is great.
Yeah.
That's great. I really like the idea of playing with time-delayed spells. It's so hard to do.
I love it.
I think this is a better execution of it than the one that I did. I like it.
Well, this is significantly more powerful, so that's something to consider.
You almost need the power level to be higher for this to actually have the weight that it needs.
Yeah, and I think that I did specify it's got to be a druid spell. It can't have a range of self. It's got to have a casting time of 1 minute, so you can't cast like something that would normally take 1 minute or 10 minutes to cast, and you can't. I don't know why you would cast like, I don't know, mage armor or whatever
Ceremony.
on it. Not important. But you also can't necessarily get all of those super duper beefy wizard spells that are going to do like crazy AoE damage. Druids have some for sure, but the options are a lot more limited in general.
Yeah.
And also, you don't cast the spell into this seed with the same casting, so you do need to take an additional action and an additional spell slot to cast something into the seed. That action economy stuff and things like that, I think bring it to a 7th level feels just about right.
I agree.
Now this next one is called Wind Spirit, and I don't think it's 8th level, and I don't know if I even like it at all, but it was the last one I came up with, and I'm just like, I can't think of anything, so here. And this is heavily inspired by the fact that like one of my last campaigns was seafaring.
Okay.
And I thought something like this would have been cool to have on deck. So this is an 8th level conjuration spell with a casting time of 1 action, a range of 120 feet, concentration up to 1 hour. You summon the forces of the wind to move at your whims. For the duration, any creature or object with a movement speed within 120 feet of you has its movement aided or hindered by powerful winds. You choose the nature of the effect the first time a creature within range moves on its turn. So you can choose to aid, giving the creature or object twice movement speed, and it can ignore difficult terrain. Or you can cause the wind to be a hindrance. The creature moves at half speed and must succeed on a strength saving throw before taking the dash action. That's literally it, but it's 120 feet, it's up to an hour, and you can do this every time a creature tries to move. Anyone.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is an 8th level spell.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't even know if it's a spell.
It's much lower. This feels like a class
weird.
feature.
It does, right? Like I can't figure
it
this
feels
one out.
very druid.
I think it probably sucks, and I'm just
Circle of the air.
It does feel druidy, but it also is like, are you a pirate druid? Like, I should just turn it into like, you can make a boat go faster, because that's really what I want this to do.
Yeah, listen, this is very cool, and I like both of the things that it does. I think it's infinitely usable, very versatile. I would never take it at 8th level.
Yeah.
This
is I've written my version of Skywrite.
Yes.
Who the heck is ever taking that? Nobody. So I don't know what this is. It's bad. If anybody actually does want to use it, shame on you, but also let me know how it goes.
If you cut the range in half and take off the concentration, I would take this as like a 5th level spell.
Okay.
This is me bargaining with you, taking your spell.
No, I think that's actually pretty reasonable. The concentration, you're right, does kind of screw it. But also it feels like the kind of thing that you should be concentrating on. Whatever. I'm just going to call it a wash and not talk about it anymore. Cool. Let's jump to my 9th level spell. This is one of the ones that I thought up today, and I was like, you know what? That's actually kind of dope. This is called Floating Island.
I love it already.
9th level transmutation. Casting time 12 hours. This is a longie. Range of 1 mile. And an area of up to 1 mile. Components, verbal somatic material. You need a magnet. Probably should put something that has a cost in here. Whatever. And the duration is until dispelled.
I love that.
We love an until dispelled spell. So you target an area of land no larger than 1 square mile. As you finish the casting, the area quakes horribly, dealing 3d12 bludgeoning damage to objects and structures within 60 feet of the edge of the area, and forcing any creatures in the same range to make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. The entire area then raises into the air at a rate of 500 feet per minute to a height of up to 1 mile above the ground. The area of land leaves a 60-foot deep crater in the ground below and remains suspended by natural magics. That's it.
This is great. This is great.
Lift a big hunk of earth, lift a whole freaking city into the air.
Yeah, what better a way to just take a large amount of creatures out of commission, right? Now is this 3d12 bludgeoning damage consistent, or is it like as it starts the first time they take it?
Just as the thing pulls out of the ground, like the earth in that area just like basically is an earthquake and a bunch of stuff is gonna fall over.
Right.
And then it settles.
Okay. Because I was thinking,
so it's like just an instantaneous earthquake damage.
3d12 per round for 12 hours. No creatures survive.
No.
This is the
just
most powerful
as you
spell
just
I've
as
ever
you
heard
finish
of.
the casting.
Yeah.
Like in the moment of casting the spell, like when the spell ends, thing rises up.
That's much more manageable and realistic as a thing. Because I'm thinking of the ways that you could use this. Like obviously this is a way to confound, entire cities, but also a very cool and out of the box way to protect cities, right? If you can nullify bludgeoning damage in any way you can for the creatures that are within this area, and
just evacuate the spaces around that area,
launch them up in the sky like that. That's great. Anything up in on that island is safe from things that can't fly up there. This is fantastic. It absolutely is a 9th level spell. A mile.
Absolutely it is. It's a huge chunk of space that's being lifted into the ground, and nobody can stop it or undo it.
No saving throws.
That's
a duration.
To me, that's 9th level.
You could just a single person, one island a day. You could make a whole community of floating islands by yourself at no cost.
Yes, you could. Although I do need to add a cost, because I do think that's got to be the limiting factor. I need to add a material cost.
I would say a material cost, or like the duration. Like you just have to cast it a couple times before it's permanent. Like a la the Hallow spell, you cast it in the same place.
Maybe
for maybe not a year, because that's a lot of time sunk into keeping this island afloat. Like once a day for a month, you just cast this spell on an island, and then it floats forever. This is fantastic.
Probably need that.
I really like this a lot. It has some damage dealing if you want to use it for that, but just so many cool narrative things. Again, this is a game bending spell that focuses around permanence, and I love that. Love it.
Yeah. You could also just be a druid and like lift a whole mountain out. Just like, hold on, guys, give us a day. I know we got to cross over this mountain, but I think I actually have something for this.
Let me check my watch here. We're looking at a timeline of about 12 hours, and then this will be right out of there for you.
Everybody take a rest, and I will get rid of this mountain for you.
We'll have it out of here, no problem.
And now I just want to make like a salty contractor druid.
Exactly. Don't worry, boss. We'll take it right out of there for you. Stumps, no problem.
Yep.
What if we take the whole mile?
Mountains? Nah, no worries. Look, you want this done yesterday, you should have hired a higher level druid. I'm doing the best I can, all right?
Nobody's going to do this at this great a scale for this low a price, I'm telling you.
Feel free to shop around, pal. Oh, man. Well, there you have it. I really struggled with this, but I do like some of these quite a lot. But I think a lot of them need some ironing out and get the kinks out.
I really enjoy Floating Island. Gosh, I like that so much.
It's really fun. It's a fun idea that I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah.
I like Fey Presence. I think the most. And I think partially because it's a lower level spell, so I can see it being utilized much more frequently, much more regularly, and feels like it does fit. Almost like, man, if I had figured out a way to like get everything around like a Fae theme, I feel like that would be great.
Yeah, obviously on both of our lists, there are clear spells that we took more time with or cared more about.
Yes,
but that's okay.
Or just ones where the idea was clearer. The idea was more well drawn from the jump.
That's a much better way to say it. I think that when you're writing 9 spells in less than a week, that's bound to happen. But I think all 18 of them have legs, right? With testing and editing, I think all of them could be at a place where we like them. I don't know that there are any of them that just don't make any sense or shouldn't exist. Don't get down. Don't
I don't
get
know.
down on wind
I feel
spirit.
like the wind spirit is probably not the move.
Wind spirit has feelings.
I
too.
appreciate your kind words. It doesn't. It's not a good spell.
It's just not the right level. You just change it to a 5th level spell.
You're allowed to say it. It's fine.
It's a bad spell that nobody would ever take as an 8th level spell. It's a good spell that everyone should take at 5th or 4th.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump us over to our list of homebrew prompts because we've been going for too long already, and we got to roll. It's my turn to roll.
It is your turn to roll. You're right.
I got to start thinking about next week already. Bam, 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 bam. We got an 11.
With an 11, for next week, we are going to make an item that grants a benefit now, but also allows the DM to apply penalties later.
Ooh.
That is from Jess from the Discord.
Thank you, Jess. Allows the DM to apply penalties.
Anything. This is dicey stuff. There are implications here, right? Because anything that allows a DM or a game master to apply anything after the fact is interesting, right? There has to be a very delicate balance there. You don't want to that kind of treads into session 0 territory where like this is the thing that we are saying the DM is allowed to do without our knowledge or after the fact. This is really interesting and should be fun to look at and dissect next week.
Yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I always love coming up with things like this. You know, I love working with my players to figure out what those fun downsides to the big choices that they're making are going to be, you know? And I love having player input on those sorts of things, you know? Love working with a player to decide like what feels narratively really interesting and cool to you as a sort of drawback, but finding a way to come up with something on my own that can be more broadly applied is going to be pretty interesting. I think one thing that I'm sure we're going to talk about next week, and maybe we should just plan on talking about it next week, is exactly that, the idea of these things need to be covered in session 0, and also like what, you know, how can you apply and utilize an item like this without stepping into adversarial DM player relationship territory? Because that's a tricky balance.
It can very easily become predatory. Yeah, I think Dan and I are pretty well in line with this thought, and my personal belief: if you are a DM whose goal it is to TPK or consciously do harm to your player characters just because, that's why are you playing? Like, you could just play a video game if you just want to destroy characters' lives. It should be collaborative, right? It needs to be a game where you as the DM are rooting for the players and rooting for the player characters at the same time that you are playing the villains or adversaries as they would intelligently operate. And things like this can tread the line between playing that way and being very purposefully antagonistic.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to say on the topic and probably discuss around this because this is the sort of item that has a lot of potential to be very cool and very exciting for both players and DMs to add this to the narrative. But we always want to make sure that that's not sacrificing player DM trust and at the table, a fun experience for everyone. So whatever you come up with, though, I'm sure it will have those ideals in mind.
Likewise.
And mine will as well. It should be a good time.
I agree. It always is.
Always. With that said, I think that's it for us. Michael, you have anything to say to the people before we say goodbye?
Dan, I always have something that I'd like to say to the people before we say goodbye. This week is very simple. Balance is not everything. This week you saw Dan and I create 18 things of questionable amounts of balance. Some of them perfectly fit, others not well fit at all. And I am here to say that that is okay. If you're out there homebrewing, making things for your homebrew world or for your players, or giving your GMs ideas as a player yourself, it is okay to start at a place of imbalance, because the idea matters more than the balance from wherever you begin. Please don't let that dissuade you from making cool stuff.
1,000%. We always want to see people creating. You can always tweak later. You can always figure out those little details. But if you've got an idea, if you've got a core thing, and if it's fun, run it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, pleasure talking to you, Michael. Everyone else, we hope you have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. And we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey everyone, it's Michael. Thanks for listening to this episode of the College of Creation. If you want to see our creations from this episode and our past episodes, you can find those for free on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/College of Creation Pod. And if you decide to become a patron, you'll also automatically get access to any revised versions of the things we've created, plus our patron Discord, and bonus chats with Dan and myself. You can send any of your own homebrew prompts or questions to collegeofcreationpod@gmail.com, and our music is by Fuserwolf. You can check out his tunes on Bandcamp and Spotify. As always, thank you so much for listening.